Hola clase, it is an e-learning day and today we are going to be talking about noun and adjective agreement in Spanish. Now this is something that we have discussed before, but after grading your Sarah and a Star test, which most of you did amazing on, I did find a few errors that I'd like to shore up as we move further into the year. So I thought this would be a good thing for us to go back over. It's been a little bit, and this was actually what we were going to be talking about today in class as we were going to go over your Sarah and a Star test, but we'll do that when we're back. So we'll have this already under our belts as a review section. So in Spanish, we know that nouns are either classified as being masculine or feminine. We also know that we refer to this as nouns having gender, but please remember that does not mean that specific noun is actually a guy or a girl. Like el perro, dog, is a masculine noun, but all dogs we know are not guide dogs. So, why should we care about this? Well, as we strengthen our ability to write and speak in Spanish, making certain our nouns and adjectives are agreeing in gender and number becomes important. And so it becomes important so that we are able to communicate effectively, both in speaking and in writing. So, how can you tell if a noun is masculine or feminine? Well, the Spanish language helps us out on this one. They use different article adjectives for masculine and feminine nouns. So, like the is an article adjective, and they have different ones to tell us whether we have a masculine or a feminine noun. So we know masculine nouns are classified with the article adjective el, which means the, and the demonstrative adjective, which means un, which is un, and that means a or an. For feminine nouns, the article adjective is la for the, and then the demonstrative is una, which means a or an. So when you are describing a noun in Spanish, you're going to match the adjective to the gender, whether it's masculine and feminine of the noun being described. But this only applies for a change if that adjective ends in an O. So if adjectives that are only adjectives that end in O are going to change based on the gender of the noun. So take note, rojo for a masculine noun, but roja when describing a feminine noun. So usually when we think of the color red in Spanish, we think of rojo. But and that's going to be true if we're describing a masculine noun with rojo. But if we're describing a feminine noun, that O is going to change to an A and become roja. Also, if we're thinking about the adjective alto, we think of alto first, but if we're describing a feminine noun, we're going to have alta, where the O changes to an A. And if it's a masculine noun, obviously the O stays for alto. Adjectives that do not end in an O do not make a change, whether they're describing a masculine or a feminine noun. So one noun, one adjective, for example, would be the color azul. Azul does not end in an O, so whether you're describing a masculine or a feminine noun, it's going to be azul. Like la camisa azul is still going to stay azul, even though it's la camisa, or el pájaro azul, it's going to be azul because, there's no change if it doesn't end in an O. So let's look at an example. El perro es negro. In this sentence, the noun being described is el perro. We should notice or recognize that perro is a masculine noun because the article adjective el. And so this is going to stay negro because it is describing the masculine noun perro. And remember, it's the adjective that's going to make a change, not the noun. Let's look at another example. La tortuga es pequeña. Again, in this sentence, we're going to figure out the noun being described. Tortuga is being described, specifically la tortuga, the turtle. And so we should recognize that tortuga is a feminine noun because it has the article adjective la. So that means that although we were thinking the adjective pequeño, we're going to change that O to an A to make it pequeña because it's describing the feminine noun la tortuga. So let's look at another example. This time we're going to use the demonstrative adjectives. And so here we have the sentence, Yo quiero una flor rosada. I want a flower pink, or I want a pink flower in English. So in this sentence, the noun being described is, and this should not be la, it should be una flor. We should recognize that una flor is a feminine noun because the article adjective is una right here. And so because of this, rosada would end with an A. So when we originally think of the color for pink, rosado, but then una would make it change to an A. Another example, yo quiero un sombrero nuevo. I want a hat new, or in English, I want a new hat. In this sentence, the noun being described is un sombrero. We should recognize that un sombrero is a masculine noun because the article adjective used is un. Because of this, nuevo is going to stay with the O because it is describing the masculine noun, sombrero. So now that we have the gender relationship between nouns and adjectives in Spanish down, let's talk about the relationship between number and adjectives. So nouns and adjectives in Spanish have to agree in number as well. And so the article adjectives that will help you out here are los, which is the plural for masculine, and unos, which is the plural for masculine, but for a or an. For feminine, we have las, for the plural for feminine, and then unas, the plural for feminine, but for a and an. So let's look at an example for these. So los perros son negros. In this sentence, the noun being described is los perros. We should recognize that perros is a masculine noun because it has los. Okay, so we should also recognize that los means plural, so more than one dog is black. So because of this, we're going to keep the O, but we're also going to add an S on the end to show that it's more than one. So los perros negros, those have to match. Another example, las tortugas son pequeñas. In this sentence, the noun being described is las tortugas. We should recognize that las tortugas is a feminine noun because the article adjective being used is las, but we should also recognize that las means plural. So not only do we need to change, we would have been thinking pequeño, but not only do we need to change that O to an A, we also need to add an S so that we're agreeing in the gender, and since it's plural, the number. So one final note on using adjectives when speaking or writing in Spanish. Adjectives in Spanish come after the noun. The only time this is not true is when you are using a number as an adjective. If you're saying like, I have 6 dogs, you would say, yo tengo 6 perros. Okay, wow, that is a ton of information to take in, but knowing it and using it will help to make our speaking and writing in Spanish muy bien. All right, estudiantes, you are ready to move on and do your assignment. For your assignment today, it is called Find and Correct. The directions are embedded within the assignment, so if you need to come back to this lesson, feel free, but I have all the confidence in the world that you are going to do a great job. Buena suerte, mis estudiantes. Remember, send me a message through Canvas or email me at agroup@hccsc.k12.in.us if you have any questions. Adios.